Hi everyone, I hope you've seen the previous video where I just introduced you to NumPy arrays and I compared it with list and I spoke about the data types of NumPy arrays. Okay. In this video, we are going to be learning about creating NumPy arrays. So what do I need to write to create NumPy arrays? So let's just go ahead. Okay. The first method of creating a NumPy array is by using a function named as array. Now this function belongs to the module called NumPy. So what is the first thing that you need to do is import that module into your program. You may see those lines on my screen here. Okay, so import those modules into your or import those modules, import the module into your program. So this is the line of importing NumPy into my program. Now as NP, I already explained to you, NP is another name for NumPy. You could avoid that completely and just write import NumPy. But remember, everywhere you are using the functionality of the NumPy module, you would have to keep writing NumPy, NumPy, NumPy. By writing an alias name, what's the advantage? That NumPy is shortened to NP. Okay, so the first method of creating an array is by using a function called array, which exists in the NumPy module. So you write np.array. Because it's a function, children, remember we identify functions with the, let me just erase this a little because, okay, we identify a function in Python by what? The function name and the round brackets, correct? Or the parenthesis. Okay, so this identifies it as a function. You remember for SQRT, POW, we wrote POW and then the round bracket. So the round bracket is identifying the function. Now what you see in square brackets here is a list that supplies you the elements that should be a part of your array. So the square bracket within the parenthesis is the parameter of the function called array. So remember, the functions, when you say POW, A, comma, B, A and B are parameters to the function called array. POW. Similarly, what is the parameter for the function called array? The parameter is a list which can consist of the elements that you need to put into the array. It need not be a list. It could also be a tuple, which means I could have written A is equal to np.array, the bracket to identify it as a function, and you could specify the elements of your array as a tuple also. Remember, in Python, we represent tuples with a round brackets, correct? So square bracket, we represent it as a list. Round brackets means a tuple. So now what happens is, what does this array function do? It takes these elements that you have specified in a list or in a tuple and creates an array named as A in this scenario or in this scenario, creates an array named as A and stores these elements in array A. So in memory, you are doing something like this. You're creating an array named as A, and in that array named as A, you have stored elements 10, 20, and 30. And now when I say print A, it displays the elements like this. Now remember, whenever you print an array, the elements of the array are always going to be printed in square brackets. Is that clear? Okay. Now, if you look at the array created here, I was creating a one-dimensional array or a single-dimensional array. Can the function array help you create a two-dimensional array? Now, remember, what was a two-dimensional array? A single dimensional array is one set of elements. Either you think about it horizontally or you think about it vertically. But when we spoke about a two-dimensional array, it consists of rows and columns. It consists of axis 0 and axis 1. So you have elements across the row as well as across the column. Okay, how do I create a 2D array using the array function? Same way, you write np.array. These brackets here on the outside, okay, is the brackets that represent the function, because all functions use a bracket. Then within the bracket, like we had a square bracket here to specify all the list of elements, I'm having a square bracket here to specify the list of elements of a 2D array. But now I can't just give the elements as 1.5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It would become a one-dimensional array. Then each row of the 2D array, remember a 2D structure, if you remember, was something like this, consisting of rows and columns. So if you have to inform Python that the first bracket here refers to the first row and the second bracket here refers to the second row. Now you might be wondering, why have I put a dot, a decimal point with all those numbers? You remember in the initial part, I told you that all arrays are homogeneous. All array elements have to be of the same type. That means arrays are homogeneous, which means you can't have one element as float and another element as integer. Now what happened in this case is I specified one of them as float and all the others as integers. Python automatically converts them to float. Suppose you had float and a complex, Python would automatically convert it to a complex. If you remember, there was a topic called implicit conversion. Okay, the only thing that was not, that means Python always converts smaller order data types to higher order data types if it's a mixed expression. Similarly here, int and float, things will convert to float. Int and complex, things will convert to complex. Float and complex, things will be converted to complex. But if you have a string, that's not been done with your implicit conversion in the initial chapters. If you have one of the element as a string, then it converts every element to a string because it cannot be heterogeneous, it has to be homogeneous. Okay, now in the display, can you see apart from the square bracket that comes out, it's also showing me individual square brackets? Yes, it will show you one square bracket, a pair of square brackets for each row of your 2D array. Is that clear? Okay, the displaying, remember, will always be in square brackets. But like I told you, when you were creating the array, you could use the list structure, that is the square bracket, or you could use the tuple, doesn't matter. But while displaying, it will always show the array elements in square brackets. Okay. If it's a one-dimensional array, you will have only one square bracket. If it's a two-dimensional array, you will have one big square bracket telling you it's an array. And within the array, you will have individual brackets, square brackets, to tell you the elements of each row of the array. Is that clear? So this is the first function. The basic array to be created is using a function named as array. And you can decide the elements of the array. You can decide what you want to put in the array. So array function allows you to create a 1D as well as a two-dimensional array. Okay, let's just go to the next slide. But before that, let me just clear all the annotations. Okay, let me just go to the next slide. Now this method of creating an array is creating an array, but all the elements of the array are filled with number 0. So the function used here is a function called zeros. Okay, 1 minute. Let me switch on the annotation. Okay, so the function used here is a function called zeros. Now, what does this for mean? I am creating a one-dimensional array which consists of 4 elements and all those elements are zeros. So basically, you're creating this 0, 0, 0, 0. But it does not create it as an integer. It creates it as a floating point number. So you need to remember that the zeros function, okay, by default, okay, by default creates elements creates elements as floating point elements, as float. So though I said zeros could also be an integer, but it creates by default as float. Can we change it to something else? Yes, we will see it later. So now when I said print A, it showed me 4 zeros. And I told you arrays are always displayed using one square. Now this is a one-dimensional array. So it's creating one square bracket and within that all the elements of the array. Okay, how do I create a two-dimensional array? How do I create something like this? Okay, how do I create a two-dimensional array? All consisting of zeros. But in that case, you write the function zeros, okay? And in a tuple, you specify how many rows and how many columns do you wish to have in this two-dimensional array. So here 3 will represent the rows and 4 will represent the columns. So what does it mean? I am making use of the zeros function to create a two-dimensional array of 3 rows and 4 columns, and all of them are going to contain what value? Are going to contain the value zeros. Now remember, and so on. Now while displaying, remember, the outer square bracket here, I told you, is how it represents an array. What do these inner brackets tell you? This is the first row of the array. This is the second row of the array. And this is the third row of the array, and all filled with number 0. Okay. And by default, we have to remember that the zeros function creates all elements of type float. Coming to the next function, which is similar to this, so I'll go a little faster. It's called, the function is called ones. Okay, the function is called ones. If zeros are filling up the array with element 0, then ones fills up the array with 1. Okay, so the elements to be filled up are 1. So if you say ones in bracket 5, what does it mean? I am creating a one-dimensional array. And all the elements in that one-dimensional array is going to be 1. And that's the reason you get an answer like this. And can you see by default? Excuse my handwriting. Okay, by default, all the elements are float because that's how it works. But in the next example, I'm just showing you something different also. What if you don't want that that decimal point to be there and you wanted it to be just integers? Is there a way out? Yes, there is a way out by specifying the second parameter. So this ones function takes 2 parameters. Okay. The first one tells you whether you want a 1D array or a 2D array. The second one that I've written here, you can specify the D type. D type means the data type of these elements. So now look at this. I wrote 2, 3. Now remember, just writing 2 would mean I'm creating a one-dimensional array. Okay, I'm creating a one-dimensional array with 2 elements. But if you give 2, 3, what does it mean? I am creating a two-dimensional array with 2 rows and 3 columns. And what's supposed to be filled in all of them was 1 point, 1 point, 1 point. Because by default, I said, like the zeros function, ones also fill it up with a floating point value. But can you see what I've written here? I've given another parameter to the function called ones, telling it, don't just create a 2D array with 2 rows and 3 columns, but see to it that all the elements are stored as an integer. And that is the reason. Can you see the answer? You got it all as integers. Now you have seen, I've written there np.int16. You could have written np.int16. Recollect back what we learned in the previous video. np.int8, np.int64, np.int32, or np.int_. That's up to you. Are you planning to store big numbers or small numbers? Based on that, you decide what should be the data type. So here, what am I doing? I am telling ones not to follow its default method of storing floating point. I want all these ones to be treated as an integer. Is that clear? So 3 methods we learned: array, function ones, and function zeros. Okay, we go ahead with the next method. The next method is somewhat similar, to your range function that you have learned earlier, okay? The next method is called the arange method function. The arange function actually allows you to create elements in the given range. If you remember the range function that you used to use with the for loop, if you write range 8, what does it do? It creates a sequence of numbers, okay, ranging from 0, 1, 2 till 8. Same is the case here. If you write a range 4, I am creating a 1D array. Okay, now a range allows me to create only 1D arrays. Okay, I'm creating a 1D array. And what are the elements going to be in the 1D array? A range of 4. That means the elements are going to be 0, 1, 2, and 3. Sorry, I would like to make a correction here. When you say range 8, it doesn't go up till 8. You remember, it goes up only till 7. Similarly, when you write a range 4, it is creating an array for you with elements 0 to less than 4. That means 0, 1, 2, and 3. Okay. If you remembered the range function, you have written it in this form also, which says start at 1, end at 1 less than 10, and skip count by 2. The same concept can be applied in the arange function here. It says the first element of your array has to be 2. The last element of your array is going to be less than 9, and you skip counting by 2. So after 2, the next element of the array is going to be 4. The next element is going to be 6. The next element is going to be 8. And now you don't have any more elements, because if you go to the next element, it's going to be 10, which is more than 9. You can't even go up till 9. You have to go only up till less than 9. So arange function, basically, when do we use? If you want a range of values, a particular range of values as the elements of an array, we can make use of arange function. So use array function when you want to put whatever values in it. Use zeros if you want all zeros. Use ones if you want all ones. Use arange if you want a range of values. It could be, you know, continuous elements or skip counted elements. It could be skip counting by 3 or whatever. Clear? Okay. And the last way of creating a basic array is by using a function named as linspace, or you can call it as line space. Note the, what do you say, note the spelling. It's linspace. Now this is interesting. What does this do? It creates an array with elements that are linearly spaced, or the difference between the first element and the second element, and the second element and the third element, and the third element and the fourth element is going to be the same. Okay, but the first element of your array will be 10. The last element of your array will be, sorry, I would want to repeat. The first element of your array will be 0. The last element of your array will be 10. And what does this 5 stand for? You want 5 such elements linearly spaced between 0 and 10. That means with the same difference. So the elements I got, what was this? It's 0, it's 2.5, then 5, then 7.5 and 10. Can you count the number of elements here? The number of elements are 5. That's what this represents. Can you see the first element? It's 0. So that's what this represents. Can you see the last element? It's 10. So that's what this represents. So it starts at 0, ends at 10. And how many such elements will you have? 5 such elements. Let's assume I wrote another example. Let's say lin space 0, 10, what can I write? Let's say 6. Okay. So how many elements do you need from 0 to 10? You need 6 elements. So can I have this? Are they linearly spaced? Yes. What's the difference between each of them? Each of the consecutive elements? 2. So that's a linearly spaced element. Okay. Now you might wonder, can I give anything? Yes. Can you give like 0, 10, 7? And can it be linearly spaced? Yes, it can be. It will divide that into 7, but obviously you will get something as 3.33333 something like that. Okay, but you will get linearly spaced elements. Is that clear? So I hope with this video you have learned 5 methods of creating a basic array using a function named as array, using a function named as zeros and ones, which by default creates the array as floating point elements, using a function named as arange, which creates an element in a particular range, and using the last method is called the line space or the linspace, okay, where you specify where you need to begin, what is the first element of your array, what is the last element of your array, and apart from that, how many elements do you wish to see in this array. But one important thing to note here is using a linspace, again, I am creating only a one-dimensional array. Using arange, I was creating only a one-dimensional array. Can I convert this so-called created one-dimensional array created by linspace and arange into 2? Yes, by using some other functions that we will see in the next video. So I hope you have learned how to create a basic array. Okay, bye. Thank you.